From the very beginning, the idea was very simple. It was premised on the commonality of writerly experience, which is to say that writers from different parts of the world very often have more in common with each other than they do sometimes with people who come from their own language.
The idea of the program is to take someone from their normal context, the context of their everyday life, and put them into a completely radically different street vernacular.
You know, I don't think that I or anybody else that I've talked to was really prepared, you know, by the sort of tremendous beauty of the city. And I think that that's certainly enhanced by being here in June and the grand penumbral light and the endless days and the beauty of the city and the deep perversity of the city.
I mean, the city itself is a kind of fiction, right? I mean, it shouldn't be here. There's no reason for the city to be here but for the imagination of a 7-foot-tall madman who happened to be the Tsar of Russia, right, 300 years ago. And so here we are in this very strange landscape, in the White Nights, these weird juxtapositions of European and Italian architecture all over the place. Putin has just stepped down. The ink of history is still wet here. And it's a text that we're sort of wandering around in.
It's a very evanescent kind of city. It's not the kind of city that becomes your pal, or it's the kind of city that welcomes you in its embrace. It's always standoffish. It's always evading you. It's always that Cheshire's cat smile of a city.
Essentially, the workshop model that we have is the same that you find in other international writing programs and in those domestic North American writing programs. Most importantly, the program offers the creative writing workshops in fiction, poetry, creative nonfiction, travel writing, playwriting, and then there are some more literature-related and culturally specific kind of topics, such as the untranslatable Russia class. There's been the literary walks, the Rasputin Mad Monk walk, of course the Dostoevsky walk, Summer Garden Haiku walk, treks to the Museum of the Siege of Leningrad, readings, and informal exchanges and dinners and receptions with local Russian writers and writers who we've brought in from Moscow. Past faculty members include, I think, some of the most interesting writers working in Canada and the US today.
There's something about the light that's energizing, and you don't seem to feel the lack of sleep. People just don't sleep.
You know, you come here and the white nights and the climate totally reset your biorhythms. Your physicality is totally changed.
It was very unstabilizing. The sun doesn't go down. The Neva, I mean, it's just a river, but it flows differently. It's like it's mercury or something. It's incredibly different from any other river. It's all incredibly destabilizing.
People get taken outside of their comfort zone. And so they're functioning in a different mode, their experiences are fresher, and their ideas are less hindered.
I feel like it really changes people's perspective, you know, it changes people's sensibility, their sense of themselves as writers.
The intensity sort of guides them, it sort of serves them, you know, and it changes them in ways they probably never even anticipated.
In terms of writing and what happens when you come on this program, I know that my writing changed tremendously.
It's incredibly eye-opening, and it's recentering, and I think it makes you question things a lot.
I have seen a burst of creativity in many people who have attended this program.
I know some folks can't write in this city at all. It just doesn't allow for it, and then they go back and eventually have a cathartic time penning it all out. Others, on the other hand, find that they draw on it, you know, they draw on that distance, if you will, that the city provides them. So for some people, it's just an alcoholic wonderland, I think.
Some people are out at the dacha bar till 6 in the morning every night.
We sort of like, yeah, indeed, try to put St. Petersburg in the literary mind of America, indeed. And I think it has, quite a few people, hundreds and hundreds of people have gone through the program. It's an interesting program that somehow flies slightly below the radar of popular mentality, but some of the great American writers, the cream of the crop of North American literature, have come here and indeed written about it.
You see lots of little glimpses of St. Petersburg accruing in the work of American and Canadian writers nowadays, even if it's just a mention like it was the other night of Nevsky Prospect in Anthony Swofford's new novel.
I think a lot of friendships are made between American and Russian writers. There have been several different successful collaborations between writers from different continents because of what we do.
You know, I certainly think that, you know, this kind of program brings writers from North America and elsewhere into contact with, you know, significant and creative and energetic and amazing writers like, you know, like Arkady Dragomushenko or Alexander Skidan. That contact is enormously important.
Oh, I think it's been responsible for a surge of writing about Russia. As an editor of a literary journal, we're beginning to see more and more writing that is either set in Russia or has some images from the Russian culture, and I think that's very important. Otherwise, you become very homogenous, very bland in your voice.
I think there's an underlying strangeness to the place, at least in my sort of brief experience of it, that, you know, that it gives it this kind of visionary energy that's really exciting.
And I'm not sure exactly what it is. I mean, there's something about the intensity of the place mixed with the intensity of the experience, mixed with the intensity of the endeavor.
There's enough here to drive me away and never want to come back, but I've been back 5 times now.
This is my fourth year back. I just can't get enough of this place. Russia, St. Petersburg just sort of gotten under my skin.
It's become such a big part of our lives, and I cannot even begin to step back and assess how many friends we've made along the way.
It's been able to, in the past 10 years, sort of situate itself like within the literary culture of the city. And I hope that it will continue to do that as the literary culture in the city continues to change, as it's doing all the time.
Of course, we depend on private donations, on people's willingness to help the program. It's a worthwhile thing, and if enough people think it's worthwhile, then it will keep going.
The literary conversation in St. Petersburg hasn't stopped, and it continues to thrive. And as long as it's there, I think the rest of the world is going to pick up on those vibrations and find some way to congregate in St. Petersburg.